What would you think if I told you that behind the image of an ordinary grandmother, a woman who bakes cookies, crochets, and reads the newspaper like any other grandmother, lies the heart of a cold-blooded serial killer? Her story begins with a smile and ends with one. But in this story, there is nothing to smile about. Welcome to Isvona's True Crime. Nannie Doss, birth name Nancy Hazel, was born on November 4th, 1905, in a small town in Alabama. She lived with her parents and 4 siblings, 3 sisters and 1 brother. Her father, James Hazel, was very strict and often mean. He made lots of rules that his children had to follow, and they could not do much. For Nannie and her sisters, making friends with boys was not allowed. They could not wear nice clothes, and even wearing makeup was seen as bad. Instead of going to school, they had to work hard on the family farm. When she was just 7 years old, Nannie had a bad accident. She hit her head on a metal bar while riding a train to see family. This accident would later be used by her to explain some really terrible things she did. As a child, Nannie found comfort in romance magazines. She loved the stories about love and passion. Her favorite part was the Lonely Heart column. When she turned 16, she met a young man named Charlie Braggs. He would change her life forever. After only 4 months of dating, and with her father's permission, they got married. Nannie thought that getting married would help her escape her father's strictness, but things turned out to be even worse. While raising their 4 children, Nannie started to see problems in her marriage. Charlie began cheating on her, making her feel lonely and sad. To escape her sadness, she started drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes. They lived with Charlie's mother, who was also very controlling, just like Nannie's father. Things took a tragic turn in 1927 when 2 of their children died suddenly from food poisoning. Instead of being filled with sadness, Nannie seemed to get over it quickly when she collected the life insurance money for her daughters. Rumors started to spread, and Charlie accused Nannie of poisoning their children, so he decided to leave her, taking their older daughter with him. As if fate were playing a cruel joke, Nannie's mother-in-law also died unexpectedly in 1928, which led to the couple getting divorced. Now, a single mother, Nannie took her remaining daughters and moved to Anniston, Alabama, where she felt very disappointed. With her dreams of a happy life broken, she went back to reading romance novels, looking for a new husband, or maybe a new victim. Through the Lonely Heart column, she caught the attention of a 23-year-old man named Robert Frank Harrelson, who promised her a wonderful life filled with love and security. Captivated by his charm, Nannie married Robert in 1929 and moved with her daughters to Jacksonville, hoping for a better future, but her hopes were shattered quickly. Rob turned out to be an alcoholic who was violent, trapping Nannie in another bad marriage. At the same time, Melvina, Nannie's oldest daughter, gave birth to her first son, Robert Lee Haynes, in 1943, and then had a second child in 1947. However, after Melvina had her second baby, she saw something terrible. She witnessed her mother stab a hatpin into the head of her newborn baby, killing the child. Nannie convinced Melvina that she was just very tired and imagining things, leaving the doctors confused. They could only guess that the baby died from complications after childbirth. Months later, while taking care of her only grandson, another tragedy happened. He died suddenly from choking, leaving the family in shock. However, Nannie saw a way to gain something. She collected $500 from the life insurance policy she had taken out on Robert just 2 months before. It's hard not to wonder, did Nannie have a chilling plan all along? Returning to her husband Frank in 1945, he came home one night, drunk and demanding to be intimate with her. Of course, Nannie refused. Frank's anger flared at her rejection, forcing her to comply. That night marked a turning point for Nannie, who decided she would not put up with the abuse anymore. One day, a dark idea popped into her head. She would use rat poison to get rid of Frank for good. With cold determination, she poured the poison into his drink, watching as he slowly, painfully, but surely succumbed. In that moment, the line between victim and villain blurred. revealing the shocking truth behind the smile of a seemingly ordinary grandmother. That same evening, Nannie sat in her chair, smiling as if she were happy with the number of her victims and the money she made from these crimes. Nannie moved again and relocated to Lexington, North Carolina. Soon after, she returned to her favorite pastime, reading the Lonely Hearts column. As you might guess, soon a new man caught her eye. Arlie Lanning quickly fell into Nannie's trap. The couple married just 3 days after they met. However, this time Nancy was not looking for happiness and romance, but something else. Like her previous husbands, Arlie was known to cheat and was an alcoholic who took advantage of women. In this relationship, Nannie tried to be a good wife. She cleaned, cooked, and did almost everything. But things took a turn when she discovered that her husband was seeking love from other women. For Nannie, this was another failed marriage, another disappointment in love, and another reminder that finding true love is very hard. In 1950, Arlie's life fell into Nannie Doss's hands, and he unexpectedly died from heart failure. The doctors said his death was due to alcoholism, once again taking Nannie off everyone's radar. But Nannie wasn't finished yet. That same evening, before leaving town, she visited her mother-in-law, who also died suddenly in her sleep that night. Who would have thought that a sweet and kind old lady was ready to do such terrible things, all while smiling? After 2 years, Nannie started to notice that she was getting older and losing her looks. She was now 47 years old and needed to do something about her love life, or she would be forever alone. Now she looked for slightly older men who took relationships seriously. And of course, she found the perfect way to find exactly what she wanted. She began looking for them through a dating agency called the Diamond Circle Club. After some time searching for her next victim, this so-called Black Widow met Richard L. Morton. Shortly after they got married, the widow once again saw the image of her past marriages in her new one. When she found out that her fourth husband was also unfaithful and chasing after women whenever he could, she began to plan his murder. However, her plans were interrupted when her mother suddenly decided to move in with Nancy and her husband. Unhappy with this change in her plans, Nannie realized she could not kill without being caught. So she quickly decided she needed to eliminate the person standing on her way, her mother. Nannie's mother died in the same way as her previous victims, by poisoning. Nannie's mother was soon joined by Richard L. Morton, leaving Nannie without her fourth husband. The Black Widow did not stop smiling. She even forgot to pretend to be sad about the deaths of her loved ones. But no one noticed, because how could such a sweet old lady commit such acts? Everyone around her thought that she, with her charming smile, was hiding the sadness and pain inside her. However, they were wrong. This was not the end of her murders. It seemed she was enjoying it. Perhaps she had even become addicted to the feeling she got while watching someone die. Soon after, she found her next victim in June 1953. His name was Samuel Doss, a conservative and religious man who did not like Nancy's romance novels. Nannie once again felt scared, remembering her strict father, and she did not want to accept the control Samuel wanted to have over her. Childhood traumas can significantly impact our lives, shaping who we become, how we respond to various situations, and how we navigate relationships. For girls, the relationship with their father is especially crucial, often influencing their future connections with emotional partners. Her childhood experiences led Nannie to kill her fifth husband after just a few months of marriage. Samuel was diagnosed with a stomach infection after eating food made by his wife. This time, the doctors did not just accept his death, so they decided to do an autopsy and found something alarming. They discovered that Samuel had a dangerous amount of arsenic in his system. Giggling Granny, Black Widow, however you want to call this lady, was arrested in October 1954, and about 6 months later, she admitted guilt for the 11 murders she committed from the 1920s to 1954. Nannie, with her wide smile on her face, confessed to all her murders and showed no remorse, not even for the murders of her closest ones, such as her mother, sister, and grandson. Nannie was not sentenced to death because of her sex, but to life in prison. Unfortunately, she only served 10 years of her sentence before she died from leukemia on June 2, 1965, at the age of 59.